Hello students, Namaste, welcome all of you. I am Samapti Sna Mahapatra, your zoology teacher, teaching in Sri Chaitanya Institute, Goshala campus. Students, we were discussing the chapter structural organization in animals, and here we are back. In the previous lecture, we discussed about the divisions of the connective tissue, loose, dense and specialized. In the loose connective tissue, we have already discussed areolar connective tissue. We started with the adipose connective tissue and we said that there are two types of fats, brown fat and white fat. White fat, white in color, single fat droplet goes inside the cell, that's called as a monolocular fat. Multiple fat droplets going inside the cell, converting it into multilocular fat. Talking about the brown fat, it is present in the infants. It cannot be broken down to produce energy, whereas when you talk about the white fat, it can be broken down to produce energy. It is present usually in the adults. And as I told you that we will be discussing about the overall location of the adipose connective tissue. So let's get started with the location. It is located around the visceral organs. Yes, around the visceral organs like spleen, like kidney, like heart. You have a covering of fat to provide it with cushion acting as a shock absorber. It is present around the eyeballs. It is present around the veil, blubber of the veil. What do you mean by blubber of the veil? That's a thick layer of fat below the skin of the veil, and that thick layer of fat in the animals like whale is going to act as an insulator in them. Below the integument, yes, below the skin you have areolar connective tissue, and in the areolar I told you that the areolar gets modified into adipose connective tissue as the fat cells move inside that. So yes, the areolar connective tissue along with the adipose also forms the subcutaneous layer of the skin. Hump of the camel, definitely hump of the camel is also having the adipose connective tissue. In fact, the adipose connective tissue is also located in the yellow bone marrow. That's why it can be said that it is used for the production of erythropoiesis during the emergency condition. Function quite easy to remember. It acts as an insulator, definitely, because it is providing you with thermogenic effect. It is definitely acting as an insulator. It can be broken down to produce energy, definitely. Now, when required, you can break down your fat to produce you with energy. It is acting as a shock absorber. That's the reason why it is present around the visceral organs. Talking about the third type of connective tissue, that's reticular connective tissue. Reticular connective tissue has reticular fibers, yes, and these reticular fibers mainly forms the framework of the hemopoietic organs and the lymphoid organs. Hemopoietic organs basic framework is formed by the reticular connective tissue like your bone marrow, like the spleen. Lymphoid organs also show the presence of the reticular connective tissue. Yeah, so that's about the types of connective tissue which is under loose connective tissue. Talking about the dense connective tissue, what is the difference between dense connective tissue and loose connective tissue is that loose connective tissue has a semi-fluid matrix and cells and fibers are loosely aggregated in that, whereas when you talk about dense connective tissue, the cells and fibers are more compactly packed in case of the dense connective tissue. Talking about the types of dense connective tissue, it is dense regular, dense irregular and elastic connective tissue. When you talk about the dense regular connective tissue, the fibers and fibroblasts are parallelly arranged beta. That's the reason why it is called as dense regular connective tissue. When you look at the diagram given in your NCERT, that diagram is very important beta, because based on the diagram also they ask you questions. So the dense regular type of connective tissue, regular connective tissue has regular arrangement of the fibers and fibroblasts, parallel arrangement of fibers and fibroblasts, whereas in case of dense irregular connective tissue, there is no parallel arrangement. Randomly your fibers and fibroblast cells are arranged in case of dense irregular connective tissue. When you talk about the elastic connective tissue under dense connective tissue, the name itself is elastic because the type of fibers that you see more in case of elastic connective tissue is the elastic fibers. And talking about the elastic connective tissue itself, beta, since it has elastic fibers, it has the property of recoiling. For example, seen in trachea, for example, seen in your elastic arteries, for example, seen in the bronchi as well. Talking about dense irregular, very easy to remember the example, beta. The skin, around the cartilage, you have a dense irregular connective tissue, perichondrium. Around the bone you have a dense irregular connective tissue, that's periosteum. In fact, around the muscles, epimysium. Around the nerves, epineurium. Around most of these you have dense irregular connective tissue. Talking about dense regular connective tissue, where you see the parallel arrangement of fibers and fibroblasts, it is having two examples, tendons and ligaments. Since the junior classes you are studying about tendons and ligaments, beta, very easy to remember. The one which connects muscles to bone is a tendon, the one which connects bone to bone is a ligament. But the point here to remember is that tendon is having more abundantly the collagen fibers, whereas the ligament has more abundantly the elastic fibers. So yes, this is the division of the dense connective tissue under the connective tissue. Now we are going to start with the third part of the connective tissue, that's specialized connective tissue. Alright, so let's get started with the specialized connective tissue, under which we are going to talk about the skeletal connective tissue and we are going to talk about the fluid connective tissue. As the name itself is suggesting, beta, whenever you are saying skeletal connective tissue, whether you talk about bones or you talk about cartilage, the matrix will be solid. Okay, but in case of the fluid connective tissue, as the name itself is suggesting, fluid. And what fluid you have? You have blood and you have lymph. So whenever you talk about fluid connective tissue, beta, the matrix is fluid, not solid. Now, very first specialized connective tissue that we will be discussing is the skeletal connective tissue, under which we are going to discuss the very first, cartilage. Now, talking about cartilage, just compare it with the bones, which we are going to discuss after that. Cartilage is avascular. Yes, overall cartilage, whenever you will be asked in question, beta, you will say it is avascular, but the part of the cartilage which has blood supply is perichondrium. This perichondrium, which we just now discussed, is a dense irregular connective tissue. This perichondrium has a supply of blood, but overall whenever you will be asked that cartilage is vascular or avascular, you will always say that cartilage is avascular. Matrix of the cartilage is solid, yes, solid, but it is soft and pliable. It is like you can notice in case of your ear pinna, it's soft and it is pliable, unlike the bone where the matrix is solid but it is hard and non-pliable. Talking about the next point, during the formation of cartilage, chondroblast cells secretes the matrix. These chondroblast cells are the cells of the cartilage, undifferentiated cells, which secretes the matrix and gets enclosed in the space called as lacunae. These chondroblast cells, beta, they will start to secrete the matrix of the cartilage, and there are some fluid filled space formed that is called as the lacunae, where these chondroblast cells get trapped and they get converted into cells called as chondrocytes. In case of bones, we will call these cells as osteoblast cells and the osteocyte cells. Okay, so that's the difference between and general features of your cartilage. You know that most of the embryonic stages we have everything as cartilage, which is then later on replaced by bones, mostly, not all. Now, talking about the different types of cartilage, we have got hyaline cartilage, we have got elastic cartilage, and we have got fibrocartilage. Talking about the most abundant type of cartilage, that's the hyaline cartilage. You will see maximum places the presence of hyaline cartilage. The color of the hyaline cartilage is white or translucent. It is not having any fibers. It is very, very delicate. In fact, you can say that this is the weakest cartilage among all. We can say that hyaline cartilage is weakest among all. No fibers at all, or you can say in some books it is given that it has less number of fibers. Talking about the next point, I have written that perichondrium is present. Overall, whenever hyaline cartilage will be asked, you will always say that perichondrium is present overall. But there are some exceptions where this perichondrium is not present. The exceptions are the articular cartilage. At the end of the long bones, you have articular cartilage. So there you will not say that perichondrium is present. There the perichondrium is absent. The costal cartilage. Costal cartilages are present at the end of the ribs. So ribs are attached with the sternum with the help of this costal cartilage only. So except at these places, overall perichondrium is present. Examples are quite easy to remember: trachea, nasal septum, costal cartilage, larynx, epiphyseal plate. I'm going to tell you about epiphyseal plate while we discuss about the bones. The epiphyseal plate is responsible for elongation of the compact bone. So that's the location of hyaline cartilage. Talking about elastic cartilage, as the name itself is suggesting, elastic cartilage. So the fiber that is having is the yellow fibers, which is the elastic fibers. Due to the presence of elastic fibers, beta, these are very much flexible. Flexibility is seen wherever you will see the presence of elastic cartilage. Alright, I have not written about the perichondrium thing. In case of elastic cartilage, you are going to see that they have perichondrium without any exception. They have perichondrium without any exception. Alright, examples are very easy to remember because sometimes the elastic cartilage, E stands for elastic cartilage, epiglottis, E, ear pinna, E, eustachian tube, E. So elastic cartilage, epiglottis, ear pinna, eustachian tube, E, and also this tip of the nose. This tip of the nose is also very much flexible because the flexibility is provided by the presence of yellow elastic cartilage. Now talking about the last one, which is the fibrocartilage, it is the strongest among all. The weakest one is this hyaline cartilage and the strongest among all is the fibrocartilage. Obviously it is having white fibers and this is the only cartilage where you will see that the perichondrium is absent. So yes, in this type of cartilage, perichondrium is absent and it is very clearly seen in the pubic symphysis. If you remember, pubic symphysis is present on the ventral side fusing the two coxal bone. And also it is seen in the intervertebral disc of the vertebral column. The students, let us start with the second type of the specialized connective tissue, not the specialized, actually the skeletal connective tissue under specialized connective tissue. That's about the bone. Now compare the cartilage with the bone. In case of cartilage, we said that cartilage matrix is solid but it is soft and pliable. That means it bears resistance, compression, it bears compression. Whereas when you talk about bones matrix is solid but it is hard and non-pliable. Very, very important point because this is given in NCERT. Talking about the next point, compare it with the cartilage. It is highly vascular, but once we talked about the cartilage beta, only the peripheral part of the cartilage, that is the perichondrium, was having the blood supply, not the cells and the matrix, but bones are highly vascular. Talking about the cells, there you studied about the chondroblast cells that secretes the matrix. Here the bone forming cells called as the osteoblast that secretes the matrix and it becomes osteocyte. There the chondroblast becomes the chondrocyte enclosed in lacunae. Here also osteocyte enclosed in lacunae. Let me give you one information here, but since we are revising, so we are focusing more on NCERT based, like the NEET pattern. But you can here add in information that in one lacunae there is always one osteocyte. In one lacunae there is always one osteocyte, but in case of chondrocyte there could be 1, 2, 3, 4 up to 8 chondrocytes in a single lacunae. That's the difference between the presence of chondrocyte in a lacunae and presence of osteocyte in a lacunae. Yeah, so that's the difference. Also beta, we say that osteocytes are having branched processes whereas the chondrocytes are unbranched. What I mean by saying this is that these lacunae, suppose you can imagine a jelly, and in a jelly what you have placed is a button. So when you place that button in a jelly, some part of the jelly shifts away. Exactly like that, consider that button to be your osteocyte and consider that jelly to be your matrix. So what happens in the matrix, you will see several protoplasmic extensions like this. This is the extension of the matrix beta. These extension of the matrix are called as canaliculi. Canaliculi are the extensions of the matrix, and this extension of the matrix has the bone cells, osteocyte. But do you know what? Osteocytes are also having protoplasmic extensions which passes through these canaliculi. Hence we say that osteocytes are also branched because they have protoplasmic extensions passing through the canaliculi of the matrix. Canaliculi is actually more specifically told explains the matrix canal. And through these canalicules, the branched protoplasmic processes of the osteocyte passes. But in case of chondrocytes are not branched. Now students, again I am telling you because this is the purpose of revision. So I know that we have done a lot of divisions of bones based upon their size, like long bones, short bones, flat bones, based upon the formation, like endochondral bones, like replacement bone, like sesamoid bone. Sesamoid bone is the bone formed in the tendons, for example, your kneecap, patella, and a pisiform. So anyway, the purpose of telling you all this is because definitely we have done different classification of the bones, but while we are revising, we must pay attention to the part which is really important with respect to NEET. And with respect to NEET, let us discuss the structure of the long bone. That is very important. The structure of the long bone, describing what is epiphysis, diaphysis, how the lamellae is present, what is Haversian canal, what is Haversian system. Let's focus on that. Alright, so I have made the structure of the long bone where usually erythropoiesis takes place. The end of the long bone where your articular cartilage is present, it is epiphysis. Then the long portion, this portion is called as diaphysis. Then again you have the end portion which is called as epiphysis. So epiphysis, then diaphysis, then epiphysis. But there is also some part of bone located between epiphysis and diaphysis. Do you see this part? This part is epiphysis, but the part which is located between epiphysis and diaphysis, that part is called as metaphysis. Is it clear? And in the metaphysis beta, the one which I said, epiphyseal plates, here you will find epiphyseal plates, but this I have made, these epiphyseal plates which we just now discussed is a type of hyaline cartilage. This epiphyseal plate beta is responsible for the growth of the bone. This part of the bone elongates because of the epiphyseal plates only, but with time the height growth is limited because of the closure of this epiphyseal plate, and this epiphyseal plate closes to form just an bony epiphyseal line. It forms a bony epiphyseal line in the metaphysis later on. So further there is no increase in the height. So did you understand the parts beta? Epiphysis at the ends, diaphysis at the center, and in between what you have is the metaphysis. But the outermost covering of the bone, which we just now said is called as the dense irregular connective tissue, that is periosteum, and the innermost layer, which is again dense irregular connective tissue, is the endosteum. Now there are something called as bone marrow placed in the bone marrow cavity inside the bone. So the yellow bone marrow, as you can see, is located at the center here in the diaphysis region, but the red bone marrow responsible for erythropoiesis is located at the end of the bone in the region of epiphysis. So this actually is a structure of long bone where you can see actually yellow bone marrow, red bone marrow, like that. But do you know there are some bones which are flat bones? Flat bones doesn't look like this. Flat bones like that of your cranium. Flat bone like that of your clavicle. Flat bone like that of your ribs. So that is a different structure, that's flat bone. Alright. Now talking about the other features of this bone beta, we can see in fact two types of bones here. In the long structure of the bone, what you find is compact bone, and the other type is spongy bone, also called as trabecular bone, also called as spongy bone. The compact bone is found in the region of diaphysis. Very important, note it here only. Compact bone is found in the region of diaphysis. Okay, so I am writing the wrong spelling. Compact bone is found in the region of diaphysis, but in the region of epiphysis and metaphysis, the bone that we find is called as spongy bone, or it is called as trabecular bone, or it is called as the cancellous bone. Did you get my point? These are the parts that we described about the bones. But the actual bone that you say, which is spongy bone or compact bone, is found in the regions, compact bone found in the region of diaphysis, trabecular bone, spongy bone, cancellous bone found in the region of epiphysis and metaphysis. Actually, why do we say spongy and why do we say compact? There is a reason. Let us first look at the structure of the compact bone, because that compact bone is having a characteristic feature of the mammalian's bone that's called as the Haversian system. If I want to take a section of this bone and if I make a section through it, and let me just draw this part. So if I make this part beta, I will have a structure like this. So can you tell me, if I have made this part, this is obviously the bone marrow cavity. This is the bone marrow cavity. This is the innermost layer, endosteum. For a better understanding, we should understand in this way only. This is endosteum. This layer is called as periosteum. Is it clear? And then let us see what all is present in this part between endosteum and periosteum. But we are discussing about which bone beta? We are discussing about compact bone, because compact bone is found in this region. In this region we find spongy bone. So we are not discussing about spongy bone, we are discussing the structure of the compact bone. This is the endosteum, that is the periosteum. So obviously in between endosteum and periosteum, bones grow bidirectional way, because the bone forming cells, osteoblasts, are located towards the endosteum also, and the bone forming cell, osteoblast, are located towards the periosteum also. What happens beta, just now I told you that these osteoblast cells will start secreting the matrix of the bone. So matrix is secreted this way also, and since your osteoblast cells are located towards the periosteum as well, so the matrix is secreted this direction also. Clear? Now as the matrix is secreted beta, they get converted into osteocyte, which is occupied inside the fluid filled space lacunae. Now if I want to make a lacunae towards the inside beta, what you will see that in a lacunae, what you have is your bone forming, is your osteoblast converted into the osteocyte. So inside you will have several lacunae with several osteocytes. Is it clear? Now let us discuss about the different types of, is this part clear beta? Periosteum, endosteum, osteoblast cells, how they secrete matrix towards the inside, and how these osteoblasts get trapped within the lacunae and they convert into osteocyte. But beta, there are different rings of the matrix that you see in case of a compact bone. Actually what happens in case of compact bone, there are some rings at the center which are concentric rings. There are some rings outside. So we are going to discuss inside what rings of your matrix is seen. Those rings of matrix in case of bone is called as lamellae. So let us understand what are the different types of lamellae that you can see in the structure of the bone. So after this I am making the internal structure of this part, since I am left with no space, so I will make it separately. Now students, as we saw that this was the periosteum, this was the endosteum, and here there was the bone marrow. Now looking at this one which I have made, there I showed you that you do have the bone forming cell osteoblast that is secreting the matrix. It is enclosed in the lacunae converting into osteocyte. What here I have shown is the presence of these red color things that you can see. These red color things are actually the long canals. Since this is a section, so you are seeing it as rounded, but these are long canals, and I have zoomed one canal here first. This long canal is called as the Haversian canal, and this Haversian canal, around this Haversian canal, the matrix of the bone is present in the form of rings. Around the Haversian canal, the matrix which is present in the form of concentric rings, can you see? This is concentric lamellae. Concentric lamellae around the Haversian canal, and these concentric lamellae has fluid filled spaces called as lacunae, and in this fluid filled space lacunae you will have osteocyte. I have labeled it over here. Did you understand? The fluid filled spaces lacunae is definitely there, where your osteocyte is also there, but the rings matrix is present, and that concentric rings is called as concentric lamellae, where in the center what you have is Haversian canal. In Haversian canal there is an opening of blood vessel, nerves, and it also has the opening of lymph vessels. Now if I want to make this Haversian canal located here, so in the bone itself, in between your periosteum and endosteum, you have several Haversian canals. That's the reason around several Haversian canal, you have several concentric rings. But these concentric rings are not present at the peripheral part. There are some other type of matrix arrangement near the periosteum. The matrix is called as the outer circumferential lamellae. This is the periosteum. So towards the periosteum, since it is lining the entire circumference, it is called as outer circumferential lamellae. And the endosteum also, it is lining the entire endosteum. Inside you have the inner circumferential lamellae. So bone, this is the bone marrow cavity, then bone marrow cavity, inner one is your endosteum and outer one is called as the periosteum. So near the periosteum, the rings that you have is the outer circumferential lamellae, inside you have the inner circumferential lamellae. But between these two, you have certain concentric rings around the Haversian canal, that's called as the concentric lamellae. But in between all the concentric lamellae, there are some random arrangement of the rings in the interstitial space, that's called as interstitial lamellae. I hope you are clear with all the types of lamellae, although this is not mentioned in your NCERT, alright. Now beta, a very important point which you can star mark here is that the Haversian canals can communicate with each other. Not only they can communicate with each other, but also they can communicate with the periosteum and endosteum because of some transverse canals like this. The Haversian canals can communicate with some transverse or oblique canals called as Volkmann's canal. That's called as Volkmann canals for connecting the two Haversian canal. This entire thing, Haversian canal along with the Volkmann canal, forms a system which is called as Haversian system. What it forms is called as Haversian system. And this Haversian system is the characteristic feature of a mammalian bone. But do you see this Haversian system at the end spongy bone? Answer is no. Haversian system is only and only seen in case of the compact bone, and specifically talking about the mammalian bone. Haversian system is also called as osteon, which is totally lacking in the spongy bone. The spongy bone, which is also called as cancellous bone, which is also called as trabecular bone, is because they do not have any Haversian system, any concentric rings, they don't have osteons. Then what do they have? Their rings are irregular, and the rings of matrix in case of trabecular bone is called as a trabeculae. Talking about the other features of the bone beta, if you look at the bone has got organic part also, inorganic part also. Bone is very, very tough because it has got high amount of collagen fibers and it has got high amount of salts of calcium. That is called as the calcium phosphate, calcium carbonate, etc. Since it has got calcium salts, the inorganic part, which is the maximum portion of the bone, makes it so tough and so hard. 70 to 90% calcium salts. Talking about the organic part is the proteinaceous part, which is very, very less, 10 to 30%. Sometimes in questions you are asked that if your bone is burnt, it is burned, then what will be happening? If you burn the bone beta, what you lose is your organic part. If you burn the bone, you lose the organic part, and what is left is only the inorganic part. In that case, the bone is called as the dried bone. If you heat up the bone and the organic part is remaining, inorganic part is lost. But whenever a question is there that you have placed your bone in dilute HCl, what is going to happen? In that case, what you will see is that inorganic part is lost and organic part is remaining. Here what lost? Here the organic part of when heated, organic part was lost, inorganic part was left. When heated, organic part was lost and inorganic part was left, that was dried bone. But in case of treating it with dilute HCl, what is lost is the inorganic part and the organic part remains. And when you lose the inorganic part by treating it with HCl, that inorganic part was providing that bone with the lot of strength. Then your bone is going to become flexible and soft. Your bone becomes flexible and soft. That's about the bones and cartilage, which is a type of specialized connective tissue under your skeletal connective tissue. But talking about the another division of the specialized connective tissue is the fluid connective tissue. This is the second part. Now compare it with the skeletal connective tissue. In case of skeletal connective tissue, we said that the matrix is always solid. It could be hard if it is a bone, it could be soft if it is a cartilage. But in case of fluid connective tissue, the matrix of the fluid connective tissue, whether you talk about bone or you talk about lymph, it is always fluid in nature. Very important characteristic is that fluid connective tissue, here the fibers are totally absent. You don't see any fibers in the fluid connective tissue, and matrix, which is the plasma, usually in case of blood, is not secreted by its own cell. Overall cartilage, overall connective tissue, we said, right, that the matrix is secreted by the fibroblast cells, but here the matrix is not secreted by its very own cell. So these 2 points are very important regarding the fluid connective tissue. Now talking about blood and lymph beta, actually we have discussed most of the part of blood and lymph in your body fluids and circulation chapter, but just to give you a brief idea, your blood is having two components, blood plasma, which is 55%, and the formed elements, which is 45%. Talking about the formed elements, you had blood cells, which is RBC and WBCs, and you also had blood platelets involved in blood clotting. We have discussed the entire thing in your body fluids and circulation chapter, how your blood cells are maintaining, which blood cells are playing a role in transport of gases, which are helping in defense mechanism. In plasma, 90 to 92% of thing is your water. It has got different proteins, the clotting protein fibrinogen, the one maintaining osmotic balance is albumin protein, the globulin protein helping in defense. So this is something which we have already discussed, so you can go through that part in the body fluids and circulation chapter. And in lymph also we have discussed that this is a colorless part of the blood formed by the filtration of the blood, the plasma part, which lacks the RBC but has abundance of WBCs. Again, the lymph part is mentioned in the body fluids and circulation, and this also in body fluids and circulation. You can check this part in the NCERT of the chapter body fluids and circulation. Here just remember these 2 points regarding the fluid connective tissue. So this is how we complete your connective tissue, and in the next class we are going to be back with the 2 remaining tissues, the muscular tissue and the nervous tissue.